Hello conference, it's very good to be here in beautiful Liverpool. And I want to thank the National Green Party and our wonderful conference organisers for allowing me this time to tell you a little bit about our campaign and obviously to beg for help, time, money, energy, resources. We're of course in a very beautiful hotel, and I don't know if you know, but Roosevelt and Churchill both stayed here. And even more interestingly, so did Roy Rogers and his horse Trigger. I'm not sure how that worked exactly, but I imagine they didn't share a room. Now, this is a call to action, and I realise that sometimes the Green Party feels that we become a little bit London-centric at times because the majority of the media there, or many of them, are there. But I'm going to try to make this campaign sound like fun so that you all want to be part of it, because I think the progress we're making in London is so substantial that we can make an impact on the rest of Britain, on the rest of England and Wales, and on Scotland and Northern Ireland with the work that we're doing. The polls are good for us. The BBC has introduced a new hierarchy of media coverage. They've always had the top three parties in the past in a top tier, and we've been in the second tier with UKIP and the BNP and people like that. This time, for the first time for the London elections, the BBC has put Ken and Boris in the top tier, and they've put me in the second tier with the Lib Dems. This is progress. And of course, we've just heard that we've got a place on Question Time for the usual mayoral debate, which is a huge departure. To say I'm terrified of that opportunity is an understatement. I'm sure you'll appreciate that. Now, we're in full swing in London. We've got 14 constituency candidates. We have 11 list candidates. It's the list candidates where we normally get people elected. And of course, we've got me standing as mayoral candidate. We stand as mayoral candidate because the list, the assembly, gets absolutely no coverage. So it's incredibly important to be there in the debates, to keep green issues on the table, to actually force the other candidates to recognise that they are not doing their best for the environment and for the planet. Now, you'll have noticed that a lot of the coverage is focusing on personalities. It's Ken against Boris, it's the incumbent mayor against the previous mayor, it's Punch against Judy. Now, Ken is being generally friendly towards us. He's already called for Labour to give their second preference mayoral vote to the Greens. He's also said he will make me supreme commander of walking and cycling if he gets re-elected. And I've told him I want a budget of billions to go with that, and I think he agreed. Now, I've also, of course, returned the favour and told him that I'd find him a job if I get elected as mayor. But for the London Green Party, this isn't about personalities. This is actually about policies, and it's about ideas, and it's about Londoners. Rather than point scoring or mudslinging, this is an opportunity for us to set out a green vision for London. And it's about building on the work of hundreds of local party green activists in our capital. And that hard work has already ensured that we've had Green Assembly members elected every election on the London Assembly. And it's ensured that City Hall has delivered green policies that have benefited people across London. When we pushed for the living wage, which encourages companies to pay their staff fairly, we won for Londoners. And when we, alongside local communities, opposed the construction of the Thames Gateway Bridge, which would have been a huge, huge environmental hit for London, disastrous consequences, the mayor was forced to listen. We actually put in our budget that he had to accept that we wanted money for the anti-bridge campaigners, and he actually had to give us £50,000. It was a condition of our supporting his budget. So he paid himself for the arguments that actually defeated his bridge. It was a real political coup for the Greens. And I must say, this was Darren Johnson's idea. And when we suggested a registration scheme for civil partnerships at the very first Mayor's Question Time in 2000, the Mayor listened then and our ideas were implemented. And the hard work of London Green activists has also made possible changes at local level as well, through our councillors, through our activists, through our local work with communities. And thanks to our members, 20-mile-an-hour zones are being introduced in many boroughs and councils. And councils and councillors are also starting work on issues like waste and energy and air pollution, things that Greens are consistently raising, but would be invisible if we weren't talking about them. Now, of course, we're also blessed in London with a Green MEP, Jean Lambert, who works passionately in Europe on green issues. And we do share our work, so there's a constant flow of information so that we can help each other to make our work on a much wider scale. Now, the Green Party has long been established as London's fourth party. And as the mayoral election approaches, it's time for us to be counted in the top three. Because quite honestly, it's time for the political consensus of the outdated parties to be broken. It's time that new answers to new questions are provided. And it's time that London finally finds a really strong Green voice. A gain of just one seat at the Liberal Democrats' expense would mean that we actually overtake them on the London Assembly. That would be a huge marker. And the Evening Standard and other top commentators now say that I stand an excellent chance of finishing in the top three in the mayoral race. Now, that might seem a weak ambition, but it will radically alter the media coverage, particularly for the next election. We would run London in a way that brings about a cleaner, fairer, better, more affordable quality of life for everyone. We would make all our streets safe and pleasant to walk and cycle and shop and live on. We would start by cleaning up London's filthy air, an invisible problem that still people are not taking seriously. We will campaign for a radical shake-up of the private rented sector and build more affordable housing. We would refurbish more than 1 million homes to cut energy bills. And we will cut fares so that it's always cheaper to use public transport rather than a car. And use funds from a London-wide pay-as-you-drive replacement for the congestion charge. We have some radical policies, and we are promoting them as hard as we possibly can and getting them out to as many people. We also need to rebuild the trust between the police and local communities, refocusing on key issues that affect Londoners, such as illegal drivers, rather than maintaining their obsession with stop and search that actually alienates communities. We will support the real economy, backing small businesses and investing in skills, not betting on banks and airports. And we'll make London more equal, a fair pay city, reducing the gap between rich and poor. We'll do this by introducing a fair pay mark for companies that pick up our policy of a 10-to-1 pay ratio. This is the idea that you pay your lowest wage earners at least 1/10 of your top wage earners. Now that seems to me very fair, very sensible, because living in London is tough if you don't earn more than £20,000. It's a tough place to live. As a package, our policies would save the average London household £1,500 over a 4-year term. This green dividend would reward people who shop locally, use public transport, and insulate their homes. But we won't make promises about the cost of living in London at the expense of other crucial green issues. Our manifesto will be uncompromising in its focus on the environment of London and beyond. It will include bold policies on reducing air pollution, opposing airport construction, and investing in environmental industries, just like our colleagues in green parties across the country. Our vision rejects this false idea that when the economy and ordinary families are struggling, green ideas are a luxury. Because the truth is, when times are tough, the cost of neglecting our health and of further polluting the air we breathe, of wasting energy, of destroying the planet we live on, becomes higher than ever. There's still a long way to go on the campaign. A lot could change between now and May. But one thing is for sure, exciting times lie ahead for the Green Party in London and across the country. And maybe with me too, because selfishly, with a decent turnout and plenty of help, I could actually beat Darren's number of votes in 2004. And that might sound a bit churlish, but you know, we are all competitive, aren't we? Us Greens. I can't finish without speaking about Brighton and Hove Greens, because as an Assembly member, I know the sweat, pain and tears that go into budget making. It's incredibly hard, and I think Brighton and Hove Greens have been absolutely incredible, and they have performed things that we can all learn from. Conference in 2012, let's make a difference. Let's make a difference in London, let's make a difference across the country, because we can do it. Thank you.